starting with Vav Yud.
Of Zion.
Vav Zion.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Vav Zion is yesterday's and Yud is today's.
Wait a second. Oh, I put it too far ahead. Put it in the wrong spot. She may fasten her seatbelt. She fasten the seatbelt. She may fasten her cloak with a stone or with a nut or with a coin, provided she does not fasten it initially on the Shabbos. An amputee may go out with his wooden foot. These are the words of Remeah, but Remeah also permits it, and it has cavity for pads. It is susceptible to tumor contamination. His knee pads are susceptible to midrash contamination, and he may go out with them on Shabbos or enter the temple courtyard with them. His stool and his supports are susceptible to midrash contamination, and he may neither go out with them on Sabbath nor the temple courtyard with them. Masks are not susceptible to tumor contamination, and we may not go out with them on Shabbos. Boys may go out with laces, and princes may go out with bells, and all the people may do so, but the sages spoke of the actual custom. Okay. I
Hmm.
don't know why. I put my bookmark over here, but this is where you were going to
Well,
start.
that's
I don't
right. That's
know.
my starting point.
Yeah.
Okay. Yotzin bebeitzas hachargol. Okay, what it says this is going to be Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says that you can go out with a grasshopper egg. It's
Okay.
supposed to be a cure for toothache. V'shein shel shual and a fox's tooth. A fox's tooth is supposed to be a remedy for lack of sleep, I think. Let's see. Yes. So if you take it from a live fox, then it's somebody's got insomnia, and if you take it from a dead fox, then it's for somebody who oversleeps. Or is it the other
Hmm.
way? No,
Other
it's
way around,
the
yeah.
other way around. The other way around. Um, Okay, so over masmer hatzalov and from a nail from somebody who was crucified, or well, they say somebody was hung on it, but
Right.
they used to think that this was a segula for a refuah. Okay, says Rabbi Meir, and everyone else in the Chachamim looks with wide eyes at this and says, no, af b'chol asur mishum darkei emori. No, you can't even do this during the week because this is darkei emori, heathen practices. Now, just to be clear about this, the Rambam makes it clear that if there is actually a medical basis for anything, there's no such thing as darkei emori for anything that's got a proven medical effect. So
Right.
if the idolaters went around, taking Akamol, as part of their ritual, that doesn't make Akamol into Darkei Mori.
Right. Right. Yeah.
But
Before we got to the last paragraph, I was going to say, but isn't this against Torah? Believing in all these things is something that you're not supposed to be doing.
so perhaps the machlok is between them is that Rabbi Meir thought that actually this does work. In which case there wouldn't be Darkei Mori, and everyone else said no. There's absolutely no evidence that any of this works. It's pure superstition and it's Darkei Mori. Okay. Next parak. Klal gadol amru b'Shabbos. Okay. General rule. Kol hashocheach ikar Shabbos. If somebody, for whatever reason, make up your story, they got captured by non-Jews and brought up by non-Jews, although and they had been educated before. They thought that they knew that there was such a thing as Shabbos, but throughout the years they just forgot there was such a thing as Shabbos. And they did lots, and throughout their lives they were doing lots and lots of melacha on Shabbos, and then somehow they found their way back to Yiddishkeit and said, "Oh my gosh, Shabbos! Yes, I remember when I was a kid. I used to do this kind of stuff." Now he has to, and now he looks back and says, "Oh my gosh! But all of these times I did melacha on Shabbos, am I going to have to bring a chatas for every one of them?" He's "Eino chayev ela chatas achas." He only has to bring one chatas for the fact that he forgot the ikar of Shabbos. That's it. So that's and your typical Baal Teshuvah is really a Tzidok Shenishma who never even knew that there was such a thing as Shabbos, so he would be like honest, right? So basically, he wouldn't even have to bring one. Yodea Ikar Shabbos, somebody who knows that there is such a thing as Shabbos. For us, melachos harbe b'Shabbos as harbe, but he doesn't know the specifics of Shabbos. He just forgot about all the halachas of Shabbos. He knew that there was such a thing as a Shabbos, and he did lots of melachas. I'll call Shabbos for Shabbos. He only has to bring one korban for every Shabbos that he violated because he didn't know that there was such a thing as malachas. Okay, or he forgot that there were malachas. Is more the point. There must be a forget thing. There's got to be a shogeg aspect, not an honest aspect. Not that if he never learned, but if he learned and he forgot. Okay, hayodea shu Shabbos. For asa, he knows that it's Shabbos. So asa malachos harbe b'Shabbos as harbe, and he did lots of different malachas on lots of different Shabboses. Chayav al kol av melacha u melacha. For every av melacha that he did, and we're going to do this and learn in the next Mishnah what is an av melacha. Every av melacha that he did, he has to bring a korban chatas for. Okay. Melachos harbe me'ein melacha achas, but if he does lots of melachas on one Shabbos that were all under the same heading of melacha, eino chayev ela chatas achas. So this is why we break down into 39 melachas, because it makes a difference as to a person's level of chiyuv if they violate Shabbos, how many chatas they have to bring, because it depends on what category they fall under. Okay. So avos melachos arba'im chaser achas. So those melachos are 40 minus 1. So why do I say 40 minus 1? I think it's probably because the lashon, it follows the lashon in makos. Makos, we also say they're 40 lashes, but it's 40 minus 1. So similar so perhaps as a memory trick, we do this to remember that there are 39 melachas, same as the number of lashes that a person gets for a love. And what are they? Hazoria, one who sows, Choresh, who plows, a kotzer who harvests, Ma'amer makes a pile. He gathers the produce into a pile. Hadash is threshing, Vazora is winnowing. That's tossing it up into the wind to sort the wheat from the chaff. A borer, and one who sorts them, who sorts it, which is basically like sifting. Is sifting again for the good, the bad stuff out of the good. Hatochen, grinding. Meraked, and meraked is like a kind of a dancing. But what's the correct term for meraked?
Sifting.
Huh?
Sifting. They call it sifting.
The sifting. Okay. Right, so there are actually three malachas that are very similar. There's Zoreh, Borer, and Meraked, which are all some kind of a sorting, but
Right.
subtle differences between each of them. Halash, one who kneads, that's like water into flour. Ofe, who bakes. Gozes is a tzemer, who shears the wool of the sheep, or as a or anything, you cut anything off a living person. So like cutting your hair would be considered gozes, or cutting your fingernails is gozes. Hamelabno, bleaching it. Menapzo is combing it. Hatsovo is coloring it. Tove is twisting it. Meisech is putting it onto a loom.
Right. Okay.
What have you got?
That's mounting the warp,
Mounting
which
the
is
warp.
what you're saying.
Oseh shnei batei nirin, and one who makes two heddles in the loom. V'ha'oreg shnei chutin, and one who weaves two threads. Potzeach shnei chutim. Potzeach shnei chutim is how's the translation?
Removing two threads.
Removing two threads. So that's typically done in order to fix things. Any malacha has got to be something that's a constructive malacha. It's not a destructive. So you're removing two threads in order to replace them or something like that. Kosher, one who ties, or matir, and one who unties. Again, must be with a constructive purpose. Hatofer shtei tviros, one who sews two stitches. HaKorea almanas litfor shtei tviros, and one who tears a garment in order to stitch it. So, for example, if you want to make some shape in a flat piece of cloth, you might cut it so that you can pinch them together and make shape out of the garment. Okay, Hatzad tzvi, one who traps an animal,
A deer.
a deer.
Deer.
One Hashochto, one okay, doing shechita, mafshito, skinning it, molcho, salting it. Ma'abed es oro, one who processes its skin. Hamochko, and smoothing the skin. Hamachatcho, cutting the skin to size. Kosef shtei osios, writing two letters. Mochek al menas lichtov shtei osios, erasing in order to write two letters. Habone, one who builds. Vasoser, one who knocks down. Again, al menas livnos, in order to build. Hamechabe, one who extinguishes a flame. Vahamavir, and one who lights a flame. Hamakeh patish, giving a blow on the hammer. Now that's sort of it's a catch-all term for making the finishing touch on is makeh patish. Hamotzi mereshus lereshus, and one who carries from one reshus to another reshus. Harei elu avos melachos arba'im chaser achas, and that is our 39 melachas. Okay, and that's that.
Okay. And
back to
we have Beis. One who extinguishes a lamp because he fears idolaters, because of badness, because of melancholia, or that a sick person may fall asleep, he is exempt. But if he does so to spare the lamp, to spare the oil, to spare the wick, he's liable. But Yossi exempts in all of these cases except that of the wick because he makes it into charcoal. The three transgressions women die during their childbirth because they are not careful regarding those of Nida, Chala, and kindling the Sabbath light. A man must say three things in his home on the eve of the Sabbath before dark. Have you tithed? Have you prepared the Erev? Have you kindled the Sabbath light? If there is doubt whether it is dark or is not dark, we may not tithe definitely untithed produce, nor may we immerse vessels, nor may we kindle the lights, but we may tithe the mai, make an Erev and insulate food. Okay, hot food. Okay, all right.
Next.
I wasn't sure if you could go, Master Shane, to go to Orla. I wasn't sure.
Let's do the end of Chala.
Okay, end of Chala. Okay. Dollar Jud base.
Yud Aleph.
And I'm sorry?
Yud
Yud Aleph, yeah. But Asdinios brought up his first things from Babylon, but they did not accept them from him. Yosef the priest brought Bikurim of wine and oil, but they did not accept them from him. He also took up his sons and members of his household to make the mine of Pesach in Yerushalayim, but they turned him back lest he establish it as obligatory. Arestin brought his Bikurim from Apamna, and they accepted them from him because they said one who buys in Syria is as one who buys in the suburb of Yerushalayim.
Okay. Chala, and now Orla.
If one plants for a fence or for beams, he is exempt from Orla. Rabbi Yossi says even if he said the inner side for food and the outer side for the fence, the inner side is liable, the outer side is exempt. When our forefathers entered the land and found planted, it was exempt. If they planted, though they had not conquered it, it is liable. If one plants for the public, it is liable. Rabbi Yehuda exempts. If one plants in the public domain, or if a non-Jew planted, or if a robber planted, or if one planted on a ship, or if it grew of itself, he's liable to Orla. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. This. Okay, Zion base. They lay down another general principle. Whatever is not human food or cattle or a species of dying matter and keeps in the ground, the seventh year applies to it and to its proceeds. Beer does not apply to it or to its proceeds. And which are they? The roots of the wild loaf and the roots of the mint, the hart's tongue, the root of the milkweed and the hazelwort, and of the species of dying matter. The matter and the sobed, the seventh year applies to them and their proceeds. Beer does not apply to them or to their proceeds, and Ramea says beer applies to the proceeds until the new year. They said to him, does not apply to them, much less their proceeds. Husks and blossoms of the pomegranate, sheltered nuts and the kernels, the seventh year applies to them and their proceeds. The dyer may die for himself, but he may not die for payment, because one may not trade with 7-year produce, or with firstborn, or with trumas, or with carrion, or with teprefa, or with reptiles, or with creeping things. And one may not buy vegetables and sell them in the market, for one may gather them and the son sells them for him. If he took for himself and some was left over, he may sell it. If one bought a firstborn for his son's feast or for a pilgrimage festival, he does not need it. He may sell it. and he does not need it, he may sell it. Hunters of wild animals, birds, and fish who chance upon unclean species may sell them. Rabbi Yehuda says also, if anyone chanced upon it, he may take it, sell it, provided that this is not his trade, but the Chachamim forbid it. Okay.
Okay.
Smart. Here. Okay.
Taurus.
Taurus. Okay. Aleph Dalet. And with animals, the hide, the gravy, the spices, the elo, the bones, the giddim, the horns, the hooves were combined to evade the tumor of food, but not the tumor of nevela. Similarly, if someone slaughters a non-kosher animal for a non-Jew and it is convulsing, it conveys tumor of foods, but not the tumor of nevela until it dies, until he chops off its head. The Torah has provided more things that convey the tumor of foods than that convey the tumor of nevela. Foods that contract the tumor from an other tumor and food that contract the tumor from a derivative tumor combined with one another convey tumor according to the level of the lesser of the two. How so? The volume of half of an egg of rishon and the volume of half of an egg of sheni food that one mixed together is a sheni. The volume of half an egg of sheni food and the volume of half an egg of shlishi food that one mixed together is a shlishi. The volume of an egg of rishon food and the volume of an egg of sheni food that one mixed together is a rishon. And if he separated them, this is a sheni and this is a sheni. If this one fell by itself and that one fell by itself onto a loaf of truma, they disqualify it. And if both fell together, they make a sheni. The volume of an egg of sheni food and the volume of an egg of shlishi food that one mixed together is a sheni. If you split them, this one is a shlishi and that one is a shlishi. If this one fell by itself and that one fell by itself onto a loaf of truma, they do not disqualify it. If they both fell together, they make a shlishi. The volume of an egg of rishon food and the volume of an egg of shlishi food that one mixed together is a rishon. If you split them, this one is a sheni and that one is a sheni because even the shlishi that touched the rishon becomes a sheni. The volume of 2 eggs of rishon food and the volume of 2 eggs of sheni food that one mixed together is a rishon. If you split them in 2, this one is a rishon and the other one is a rishon. Into 3 or 4, it's a sheni. The volume of 2 eggs of sheni food and the volume of 2 eggs of shlishi food that one mixed together is a sheni. And if you split them in 2, this one is a sheni and that one is a sheni. Into 3 or 4, they are a shlishi. Okay. And Zvachim. Yud Dalet Zion. When they came to Nov and Gibeon, the Bamas were again permitted. The most holy offerings were eaten within the curtains, and offerings of lesser holiness in all cities of Israel. When they came to Yerushalayim, the Bamas were again forbidden and were never again permitted, and it was the inheritance that most. I'm sorry, and it was the inheritance. The most holy offerings are eaten together within the curtains, and the offerings of less holiness and Ma'aser Sheni within the wall surrounding Yerushalayim. All offerings which are consecrated during a period of Bama prohibition and which were offered outside during a period of Bama prohibition are subject to a positive commandment and a negative commandment, and one of karat on their account. But if they were consecrated during a period of Bama permissibility, but they were offered up during a period of Bama prohibition, they are subject to a positive commandment and a negative commandment, but one does not accuse karat on their account. If one consecrated them during a period of Bama prohibition, but offered them during a period of Bama permissibility, they are subject to a positive commandment. They are not subject to a negative commandment. Okay.
Okay. Tomorrow we should move on to Menachos.
Right.
Okay.
And again, we have the Dharam. Dalet Zayin. If someone is prohibited by a neder to benefit from another, and he does not have what to eat, the other person goes to the storekeeper and says, so-and-so is prohibited by a neder to benefit from me, and I don't know what to do. He gives him and collects from this one. If he had a house to be built, a fence to be erected, or a fence to be harvested, the other person goes to the workers and says, so-and-so is prohibited by a neder to benefit from me, and I don't know what to do. They may work for him and collect wages from this one. If they were traveling on the road and he did not have what to eat, he gives food to someone else as a gift, and that one is permitted. If there was no one else with them, he puts it on a rock or a fence and says, these are free to whomever should want, and that one takes and eats. And Rabbi Yossi, however, forbids this. More. Partners are prohibited with a neder the benefit of each other are forbidden to enter the yard. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says this one is entering into his own property and this one is entering into his own property, but both are forbidden to install a mill or an oven there or to raise chickens. If one of them was prohibited by a net or from benefiting from the other, he may not enter the yard. If Elias ben Yaakov says he may say to him, I am entering my own property, I'm not entering yours, and we force the one who made the net to sell his share.
Okay.
Okay. Right.
Right.
Okay. Have a great day. Enjoy.
To
And I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Thank you. Okay.